Back to the daily grind, and y'all know we gotta talk about this. But before we do, make sure you hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
I've gotta start this video off by saying Demetrius Johnson, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but if you are, it's Sugar Sean O'Malley, not Sugar Shane O'Malley. Now, with that aside, Demetrius Johnson was just on the MMA Hour today, and it was a very great interview, actually. He confirmed he wanted to fight TJ Dillashaw, which is good to hear, because recently Dana White said, you know, I don't know if DJ wants to fight TJ. That's the fight that TJ Dillashaw wants, but I'm not so sure if Demetrius Johnson wants to fight TJ Dillashaw. Demetrius Johnson in this interview said, no, I definitely want that fight. I want the TJ Dillashaw fight, you know, in July. But you know what I'm saying? It's the UFC has to come to terms with my manager. I hired new management. I believe in my managers, and I think the talks have went pretty dormant. So Demetrius Johnson went on to reveal that, you know, if they haven't spoken, he doesn't believe the UFC and his managers have spoken in the last fucking 6 weeks, which is not good if you're talking about the time frame for a Demetrius Johnson TJ Dillashaw super fight. I mean, we've already got the main event announced, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier for UFC 226. That's where this other champion versus champion super fight was being targeted. A lot of people want to see the fight. Demetrius Johnson wants the opportunity. TJ Dillashaw definitely wants the opportunity. But Demetrius Johnson, the thing about Demetrius Johnson, and I kind of like this, I kind of have to respect it. I mean, and I don't know if you guys are going to respect it, but he's content in where he's at as a champion. He's content with just, you know, being the 11-time defending champion. Like, he knows everyone wants to see champs, but he pointed out the fact that in this organization, and we covered this the other day, there's like a guy with 4 belts in one organization. I don't know if it's the ONE or the LFR. He said Bellator there's about to be a champ. There, you know, there's already champs in some of these smaller organizations. Champ is getting old, but you know what's not getting old? 11-time motherfucking defending world champion. And right there, I just wish like Ariel Helwani's show had one of them soundboards with the applause sound, because he like dropped the mic and it was pretty perfect. That was toward the end of the interview. So Demetrius Johnson, in that, what I'm taking from it is, hey, I want this amount of money to go up for the super fight. If not, I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna, and we don't know the details, so that's why we can't go too far into this. But from what he was saying to Ariel Helwani is, if it so happens, hey, TJ Dillashaw can fight Cody again. He can fight Jimmy Rivera. I mean, I got some rematches I can do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Ariel Helwani even asked him about Juicy or Formiga. So, you know, he said, hey, I mean, if the negotiations don't happen, it is what it is. I'll defend my belt here for this amount of money, and TJ can defend his belt. But I know TJ wants to fight me for my belt. I know, you know, the people want to see this fight. It's champion versus champion super fight, and he feels like he's worth more money. And then one thing he did bring up is that motherfucking mighty whiz bar. Whoo! It's hard, you know, it's got to be good going into contract negotiations coming off of that submission. It's got to feel pretty good pulling off the fucking best submission in UFC history. That's why, you know, he can just sit back and say, hey, I might just mighty whiz bar some more motherfuckers down here. And you know, defend my belt 12 times, 13 times, 14 times. Unless y'all want to pay me to fight TJ. He wants to fight for my belt. He said, I'm not interested in going up to 135 pounds and becoming a champ. For one, I'm not interested in fighting a guy that walks around at 165 pounds. You know, and I walk around at about 135 maybe. You know, Demetrius Johnson would barely cut weight to fight at 135 when you got some killers really cutting weight. And that's when he brought up Sugar Sean O'Malley. He said, look at him. He's like 5'11". What is Demetrius Johnson? 5'3", 5'4"? And that would look like fucking Stephen Struve versus Daniel Cormier in there or some shit in the same division. So that's why Demetrius Johnson, I would be interested to hear Demetrius Johnson say this. Like, I think it'd be more realistic for Demetrius Johnson to fight at 115 pounds than 135 pounds. But he didn't say that in this interview. But I just think that, you know, there's not a male 115-pound division, but Demetrius Johnson, if there was, could probably fight there. So that kind of, you know, is why he really can't go up to 135. And he's tried. And Dominic Cruz looked like a fucking, you know, giant in there to him. Even though Demetrius Johnson has the skills, it's the size thing. So that's why if he's saying, yeah, I'll fight TJ, But this isn't just an ordinary title defense. This isn't just, me defending my belt versus the next contender. The people are considering this a super fight. It's going to be on a big card, so pay me like it's a super fight, or let's just keep doing what we're doing. And you know what I'm saying? So I see where Demetrious Johnson's coming from. I don't think he's going to budge. He's got a lot of leverage. He's content. And that's the thing about being content. When you're content, you don't really have to take the offers, because compared to somebody that's desperate. If you're a fighter that's desperate for the money or the attention, you're probably going to say, okay, fuck it. But if you're like, hey, I'm cool with doing what I'm doing, I'm comfortable, that's when, you really have the leverage or the power. And, a lot of the power in the situation. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is, for instance, like the Joe Rogan podcast, and this, you could turn the video off if you don't, if you're just here for the Demetrious Johnson part. But this is what this reminds me of when I say he's content. If a sponsor drops Joe Rogan because of something he says, if the UFC wants to fire Joe Rogan because of something he says on air, he don't give a fuck. That's why he can give you his opinion on a fight, or he can call out the judges on the mic, because if you fire him, he don't care. He's content. Like, oh, you want to fire me? Cool. Dude, that's what it is with Demetrious Johnson. It's like, oh, you're not going to pay me $1 million? Well, then I'll just keep whooping their ass down here. I'll earn $1 million in 2 fights if I'm not going to get $1 million for the 1 fight. Like, that's the thing about being content. There's a little bit of something to be said about being content, even though you have to draw the thin line between being content. When you're content, you're not really necessarily motivated to go higher and above and beyond. That's like the payoff. You can either be content or you can be hungry. I don't know if you can. Demetrious Johnson is still, you got it, or maybe you can be both. Maybe you can be both, because Demetrious Johnson is still hungry enough to get in there and work enough to defend that belt and do what he needs to do to be one of the best fighters in the world. So, but at the same time, he's content in being at 125. He doesn't care about being a 135-pound champion. So hey, it is what it is, man. I've said enough on this video. That being said, Demetrious Johnson did say, hey, I want the TJ fight, but we'll see if we can come to terms on a deal. With that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time opinion know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOG.